If you're looking at your business process at any time, whether you're starting your business, whether you're already in it and you're already making money and you're already developing a process, you already have operations, when you go through the whole process, there's somewhere in that workflow that you're doing something on a repetitive basis. And it's taking time away from you from doing the thing that you're really skilled at. That's where AI and automation can help you.
The most real and relevant resource on AI and automation. AI Automation Alchemist podcast, sponsored by Grata Software.
Hey, welcome to this podcast. This is the AI Automation Alchemist podcast. My name is Rey Ortega, and I'm your host here. And I am here to talk about artificial intelligence and automation and help you understand how you can use automation and artificial intelligence in your business today. This first episode is strictly just an introductory episode where I want to answer some questions that people normally have about artificial intelligence and how they can incorporate it into their business. So my name is Rey, and I've been operating in the field of artificial intelligence for over 10 years, even though artificial intelligence has been around since the 1960s. The fact is, just lately, artificial intelligence has become really cool, and now everybody wants to do it. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to dispel some of the rumors about what artificial intelligence can do, but I also wanted to talk about the things that are really good that AI can do for you, and also automating that AI. Now, I just want to make it clear, automation and AI are two separate things. Some people, what they do is they intertwine the two. The reality is that automation is the ability to run through workflows and processes without the need for human interaction. Artificial intelligence is the ability to grab a whole bunch of data that is not necessarily formatted or in sync with each other and be able to come up with patterns of that data and be able to regurgitate those patterns back. So, for instance, a perfect example would be something like a ChatGPT or any one of these LLMs that you're using. If you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, or any of these ones, basically the input is a bunch of words that you provided, and then it uses a mathematical calculation to determine what is the highest probability that these words are related to these other words. And then the output kind of puts all that together and sends it back to you. Now, the great thing about it is that a lot of the data that's inside of those systems has been saved and been taught inside of the model. So you're getting real information from real people that have provided that information in the past. However, are there possibilities of hallucinating fake things on there? Absolutely. But that is up to you to review and see what's going on and then make sure you make the right decision. Now, when I first got into AI, it was actually about 10 years ago. I own a company called Grata Software, and what we do is we build custom AI solutions, custom automation solutions, even before AI became popular. So we were building software for back office business, for companies to be able to automate, scale, and grow their businesses. And when we were working with this one company out of California, which was actually a nonprofit, they were trying to find a way that they can use their systems in order to their psychologists to be able to make appropriate decisions based on people's personalities. So we built a neural network, which is actually the backbones of what AI uses. We built a neural network that allows us to gather in assessment data. So they take a bunch of tests, and based on the results of those tests, we're able to aggregate and determine what personality traits best work together on a team. And therefore, the artificial intelligence side of it, after the machine learning did its math and it created its values, the artificial intelligence side of it makes a decision as to which people best work together, and then it puts it into a report and then send the report to the customer. And that way the customer doesn't have to go sifting through a bunch of data and analyze themselves whether certain employees were valuable working together as a team. If you've ever done a DISC, which is a personality profile, or any of those things, usually people have to gather all the results from the different people that take the test and then determine, okay, these personalities work with that personality or whatever. And so we were able to do all that using artificial intelligence. This was over 10 years ago. Obviously, ChatGPT came out in 2022. There were some companies that were already selling LLM technologies about a year prior to that. I don't know if you guys remember Jasper, or it used to be called Jarvis, but because of Marvel, they threatened to sue the company. The company switched the name to Jasper, and Jasper was already providing the same services you can get in ChatGPT today. And they were using a GPT model, AI model in the background. And that's what they used in order to build their software. And I think they were actually licensing from OpenAI at the time. That's kind of how those LLMs work. And that's how AI works in general. It's just essentially a probability calculator that puts things together based on mathematics. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just go over a few questions that people may have asked about artificial intelligence and automation. And so I'd like to answer those questions, and that would be basically what this first podcast is about. And then we would have more podcast potential guests, things like that. But I do want to say thank you. If you like this, if you want to hear more information about AI, automation, and how all of that works in the business realm, definitely like, follow, subscribe to the podcast. I look forward to building out the community in the future. I think this is going to be great for a lot of business owners. I personally work with business owners, small business owners on a daily basis. And when I work with these business owners, the biggest issue they always have is they just don't know who to trust when it comes to talking about whether they should implement artificial intelligence, whether they should implement any type of automation through their business. And the main reason why is because there's so many people out there that are selling the services that are acting like they're AI experts, but they're really marketing people or people who just stumbled upon AI. They used it once or twice in their chat GPT. They got a few good results out of it. And now they're acting like they're they're de facto experts in the field. But what's happening is that's bringing in people that are hiring them, and they're not getting the results, and the people that are offering these services don't know how to get the results because they don't really know how it works. They just know that they used it for this one thing and it worked, and so now they're trying to sell that as a service. I however have been in this industry for over 25 years as a software engineer. I built the technology, I built AI technology, and so I understand how it works and how it could be more, how you can use it to the best of your advantage. And that's why I provide programs and we provide a service where we go into companies and we build their automated systems and we also build their AI systems. So that being said, let me get to the first question. So first question I got here is my business too small or too niche for AI and automation to make a difference? Now that's a good question, but the reality is that there is no business that is too niche. In fact, AI does a far better job if your company is a very specific niche, because the key part here is called context, data context. So the larger and more swath of data that you need, that AI models need in order to be able to give a result, the problem is they don't have enough memory or tokens, what they call tokens, in order to be able to remember all of the context. So that's why when you see some of these models, when OpenAI releases a new model every 6 months or Claude releases a new model every 6 months, what they're trying to do, they're trying to expand the ability for these models to be able to handle more and more data and be able to make appropriate reads and writes based on that data. The unfortunate part is it's still not there yet. In fact, Gemini probably has the biggest tokenization size and context size than anybody else. But the reality is there's a trick to that. There's a technology called RAG, it's Retrieval Augmented Generation AI. And what it is when the mathematics is trying to determine the words that go together, right? The result that it's going to say. The problem is that some of that data gets lost because, again, the tokenization size is not that big. So some of the data gets lost that were from the original chat. You probably experienced this if you've ever been on ChatGPT and you have a really long chat going on. Sometimes it forgets the stuff that it already did at the very beginning. And that's just because the context window is just not big enough. Gemini, what they do is they use retrieval augmented generation, where they go back to the data. They have the data stored in a separate pocket, so to speak. And as the memory is waning and it's not remembering certain things, it goes back to the data that's in the retrieval augmented system, and it goes back and it gets the data back. So it refreshes the data back to new. Therefore, for you, it looks like it's remembering everything and it remembers what it did a long time ago. But the reality is it's going back and it's retrieving that information on a consistent basis in order to be able to provide the biggest, most accurate results that you need. And that's why everyone who uses Gemini, they'll tell you the context window is huge. And it's not necessarily just the context window. It's the fact that it's using retrieval augmented generation, which is RAG, which is a specific technology in AI in order to be able to get that information. So going back to the question, we look at too niche. The thing is, like, if you're not using RAG and you're just using a regular chat or using AI just clean the way it is, just by default, the more niche that your industry is, or the more niche that your business is, there's a very finite number of data points. And that finite number of data points, because it's a smaller data point or a smaller number, actually keeps the system remembering everything and being a little bit more accurate and having less hallucinations. So there is no too niche for AI or automation. In fact, the more niche you are, the better the results in that. All right, let's go to question number 2. Is this too complicated to manage or understand for non-technical owners? The answer to that is a yes or no. The thing is with artificial intelligence is that it is a new technology, public facing, but the technology has been around for years. The hard part about artificial intelligence is the stuff that I have to know. You don't have to know this stuff. I have to know this. I have to know how the models work, how the algorithms work. I have to know how many nodes, hidden nodes, all this kind of stuff in the neural network and how all that stuff works. The great thing about the systems today, and this is the reason why OpenAI has done such a great job, is that by releasing ChatGPT and by making it more available to the public, now you as a user can go and use artificial intelligence without having to be an expert or a technology guru, because everything's right there in the chatbot. You can communicate with the chatbot in real time as you're talking to a human being, and you're going to get responses that are going to provide you the information that you need, and you don't have to be an expert or technical person in order to do that. Now, would I recommend learning a little bit more of the technical aspects of AI? I absolutely do, just because I think it's better for you when you're working with people that are considered AI experts and they just start throwing out all this jargon. It's best for you to understand what that is, because if you're hiring someone for your business to do this kind of work and you don't understand the jargon, they're literally just going to throw words that are just going to go over your head, and you're going to find yourself agreeing to things and not realizing that they don't know what they're doing, but they're just using the big words, so it kind of seems like they know what they're doing. So I would recommend that you learn a little bit of the technical aspects of how AI works. The great thing about it is that Google has TensorFlow, which is one of the most advanced technologies. Google bought that company a long time ago. So now TensorFlow is part of Google. If you go to tensorflow.google.com, they have a great training on how AI models work. Now, tensors are a different technology than using GPUs, but they're at the end of the day, like, it's the fundamentals of artificial intelligence. So I would recommend you looking at TensorFlow and just going through the documents, or just watching a few videos on that, because it's going to show you how models work, how AI models are built, and then how do you leverage those for other things? Because LLMs is just one small sect of artificial intelligence. There's other things that we do in artificial intelligence that have nothing to do with LLMs. And if you go to that site, you'll see that there's so many other things. There's image recognition, there's video pattern recognition, so many other things, visual. There's so many other areas of AI that things could be used for, not just for LLMs that you currently are experiencing out in the industry. All right, next question. What problems can AI automation solve for my business? So this is such a loaded question. This could be answered so many ways. The reality is that if you're looking at your business process at any time, whether you're starting your business, whether you're already in it and you're already making money and you're already developing a process, you already have operations, when you go through the whole process, there's somewhere in that workflow that you're doing something on a repetitive basis, and it's taking time away from you from doing the thing that you're really skilled at. That's where AI and automation can help you. So this is what we do when we work with customers. We go into their business and we go through their whole workflow. Everything from customer acquisition to sales, to operations, to distribution, shipping, down to customer service. And we find all of the areas that we see bottlenecks because people are doing tasks that really could be done by a technology. And then what we do is we make those recommendations as to those places that can be automated with AI. One of my programs that I just launched not too long ago, I'm actually teaching small business owners how to do the customer acquisition process, which is going out and getting new customers, selling them a specific offer, and then also learning how to talk in their language and doing all your social media content using AI and automation. And the reason why I went that route is because I found that most businesses, the biggest issue they have is clarity in finding out who their right customer is, what kind of product they're going to offer, what kind of service they're going to offer, and then how they actually get those customers, whether it be social media, organic traffic, email marketing, all that kind of stuff. And most small businesses lack in that area. It's really amazing to me because I've gone to conferences all across the United States in my past 12 years that I've been in business as Grata Software. And every time I go to these conferences, I meet with a bunch of other entrepreneurs very similar to I am, who have a business, or they say they have a business. And a lot of people I talk to, they haven't even gotten their first dollar of revenue yet, but they've been in business for 2 years. And so I would ask them, I said, hey, how is this possible? And they would say, well, I just don't know what to sell. I don't know who my customer is. I'm still trying to find the target market. I don't have product market fit. You'll hear that a lot in the tech industry whenever we work with technology companies that are trying to build new software or new apps. One of the biggest things we always have to have the conversation about is, what's the product market fit? Are you building something that an actual audience is going to want to buy? And so all of those things is probably the biggest struggle I think most small business owners have. And so that's why we help them with trying to figure out how to make that part more efficient and better so that they can focus on the selling while all the systems are going out and finding all the prospects. And I think that's super important because I had to do that myself as a business owner. I had to go do the prospecting, and then I had to go do the selling, and then I had to go back and do more prospecting and then do the selling. If I had just a well-oiled process of bringing in leads, then I can just focus on selling. And so that's what I do. That's what I do in my business now. We have a full automated system that does a lot of the work for us. And then all I got to do is the selling at the end. All right, next question. Can automation be customized for my workflow? Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of it. Again, go through your workflow, find out areas that you find yourself spending a lot of time doing the same thing over and over again, or doing something that doesn't move the needle forward when it comes to revenue. And then that's a good prime place to want to automate or provide or put some AI in there. How long does it take to set up and deploy artificial intelligence? That answer is really dependent on the kind of system that we're putting together. If it's something like a chatbot, chatbots are pretty simple. They can be done in a day or two. You can actually do them yourselves. I do have a training on how to create your own custom chatbot in ChatGPT. And then also there's other trainings on how to create how to access the what they call APIs on ChatGPT in order to be able to write your own chatbot interface that communicates with AI so that you could potentially answer questions for your customer. There's a company called Air AI that I licensed a while ago, and they're a sales AI bot. Their whole company is about creating what they call sales development representatives, which is SDRs. And SDRs are people that call out on behalf of your company to try to acquire new prospects. They basically call a customer or potential customer prospect, they qualify them as a potential lead, and then they'll put them into your sales pipeline. Well, this company had built an AI bot of that. So I worked with them at the very infancy stage when they first started. And the very first thing we had to do was fill in the knowledge base on the back end and let it know everything about my company, my history, all the services we offer, any type of extra things that would be very pertinent to the customer. So we did all that. And then what happens is it would make outbound calls and it would talk to people. And if people asked certain questions about our company, it would know the answer based on the knowledge base. Now, something like that, it was very simple to deploy the first iteration of it, but it wasn't as accurate as we wanted it to be. And then once we talked to the company says, hey, in order for this to be more accurate, you need your own dedicated server. We need to spend more time on the knowledge base and so on and so forth. So we were looking at a 6-month timeline, essentially $15,000 to $20,000. So we decided not to go that route because it was more cost effective for us to just do what we were doing, which is prospecting everything through AI. And then I'd just do the sales call. Last question. How do I measure success and impact of AI tools after the implementation? Well, it's pretty simple. There's the key thing. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? So for instance, for example, what I said earlier is I'm working with people on how to do the customer acquisition process. So for us, the metric for that is pretty easy. What's the cost of customer acquisition? So your customer acquisition cost, which is called CAC. We also determine the cost per lead. So that's important. And at the end of the day, it's the sales, right? How many sales? What's your numbers? That's an easy way to measure up to see what you did before and what you're doing after and seeing if all that automation is helping. So really that's all it is. You just find your key performance indicators in your business and figure out, okay, what part are you automating an operations piece when it comes to, let's say manufacturing? If you're doing that, then obviously the amount of units per hour that get through your manufacturing plant. So you would have to measure that and then determine whether the new automation is speeding up that process, capacity, all those kind of things. So if you're a business person, which most of you should be if you're listening to this, you should either be an entrepreneur or someone who's starting a business or someone who's interested in starting a business. These are words and phrases and terminologies that you should understand because these are important to running a business. And so if you just follow those key performance indicators, use those as your point of entry when you're trying to incorporate automation or AI, then you should be able to track how successful that new implementation is. And that's basically it there. Well, I hope those are all the questions for this first podcast, but definitely if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. If you have any questions, please send those questions to us. If there is nothing there, then just send them to Rey, R-E-Y, at gratasoftware.com. That is my personal email. And just make sure in the subject line, you put question for podcast. I'll be more than glad to answer those questions in the next podcast. I'm sure we're going to have guests in future podcasts and everything. And so what I'll probably do is I have a section for question and answer, and then I'll have like a guest section. And if there is no guest, we'll just do question and answer. And then maybe have some of you guys who are watching or listening who are interested in getting more information. Maybe we'll have you on the podcast as a guest to talk about your business and what you're trying to do. And maybe see we can live in a podcast help figure out how do we make your business better. So again, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. Again, this is the AI Automation Alchemist podcast. Watch out for our next episode. Definitely subscribe to the podcast, like and follow, and subscribe on YouTube as well. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.